Hey guys, how's it going? Steve here. If you watched my last video, which was about my worst movie theater experience ever, you'll remember that I wanted to talk about, at some point in time, movies that you can watch on streaming services from the comfort of your own home. Biggest reason why is because right now we're dealing with a pandemic and we can't go to the theater to see new releases. And while that is for good reasons, because we're dealing with a pandemic, that does kind of suck. With that being said, we are still getting new releases that are being released on streaming formats to us. And one of those was released by HBO not that long ago. And I figured this movie is worth doing a movie review for. In part because I haven't done a movie review in a long time, and in part because this movie is just that good, and I think more people should see it. The movie I'm talking about is the HBO release, Bad Education, directed by Cory Finley and starring Hugh Jackman, Allison Janney, and Ray Romano. Yeah, you heard me right, Ray Romano. Based on true events that occurred in the early 2000s, and written by somebody who was a student at the time and in the district in which this movie takes place, Bad Education tells the story of Frank Tassone, played by Hugh Jackman, who was the much-loved superintendent of New York's Roslyn School District and ended up being a key figure in one of the biggest public school money embezzlement schemes in US history. Based on the synopsis that I just told you, you would think that this HBO-released movie is not exactly going to be something to write home about. It doesn't sound super exciting. But, honestly, it's one of the most engrossing films I've seen in a long time. There are many reasons why, but I'll start with the performances. And the biggest one that I gotta nail right now is Hugh Jackman. He gives one of the best performances in his entire career in the lead role of Frank Tassone. It feels very realistic. It doesn't feel like he's acting. It doesn't feel like we're watching Hugh Jackman play a historical figure. And it doesn't feel like we're watching Hugh Jackman try and reach and try and give this huge, showy performance that is going to get him nominated for an Oscar, which honestly, I hope he is, because this is a very good performance. Hugh Jackman's character in the movie is somebody who comes off as very sincere, even though you could argue that he's not. He's the guy who's going to give you the shirt off his own back, but he's probably going to steal someone else's shirt. And even with the knowledge of what he's doing and figuring out what he's doing as we go along, there's something about his performance that gives him an air of likability despite what he's doing. And the same goes for Allison Janney, who's also terrific, a very good actress, and terrific in this film as somebody who is also complicit in this. And I gotta say, I feel like Ray Romano's career is reviving. Honestly, in the early 2000s, I thought that that was around the time his career was going to die. And for the longest time, it felt like that was the truth. However, there have been some surprise movies that he's been appearing in the last couple of years. The first one I can think of is The Big Sick. And then last year he was in The Irishman, which threw me for a loop. And honestly, in this film, he's also terrific. And I could keep going about the technical aspects of the film as well. It's very well shot and edited, and it's done so in a way that keeps a very good pace for the film. It doesn't feel flashy and it doesn't feel super fast paced, but I never felt bored watching it. It felt like we were watching a story unfold that we wanted to keep seeing. And I could keep going about how well I think Michael Abels has been doing in the score department and how this score that he's made for this film is terrific, and that I really think he has a chance of going down as one of the greats, even though he's only scored a few films so far. But what was really surprising about the film is how well grounded it feels in reality. Sure, there are some funny moments and there are some dramatic moments, but they always feel grounded in reality, because it never goes super over the top. There's one scene in particular where Hugh Jackman does kind of go over the top, but it's not totally theatrical over the top. It feels like it could be something that somebody does, and it's honestly a hilarious but kind of tragic scene at the same time. And there's a very strong theme that the movie explores that I think is very telling for the times that we are in now. And something that I don't think is ever going to go away, but I think is something that all of us need to come to an understanding of, which is just because you see something happening doesn't mean that your gut reaction is to go ahead and try and stop that thing. It's much more complex than that. And we often hear stories about how things were going on behind people's backs that were illegal and nobody stepped up and did anything. And oftentimes we think, if I was in that situation, I would have told on that person and I would have taken them to police. But would we really have done that? Throughout the movie, there are many characters who kind of have a hint that something fishy is going on. And even when they are presented with evidence that shows them that, they are questioning whether or not they actually want to go through with bringing this to the public and bringing this to the light, because that might have some sort of bad effect on them. And of course, we're all going to call into question how historically accurate the movie is, which, like any movie, it's not going to be totally historically accurate. Frank Tassone, the guy that Hugh Jackman plays, recently talked about how when he saw the film, he said that it was probably 40 to 50% true, which that sounds like it's not that true. However, whenever I watch a movie that's based on true events, I always try and take that part of it with a grain of salt. Whenever you watch a movie, no matter how historically accurate or inaccurate it is, it can still work, as long as it's not doing a giant disservice to people involved. And it doesn't feel like this movie is. So if you're looking for a new release to watch and you haven't watched Bad Education yet, go ahead and give it a watch. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And whether you love it or hate it, there are definitely going to be some more movies that I'm going to recommend to you, whether they're new or old or just something that I've really enjoyed watching and figured you guys might enjoy watching. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.